All right, we live. Blessings on your life on today. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we are going to rejoice and be glad in it. I'm gonna let y'all in on a real secret today. A real secret. I mean, listen, this right here, you can't tell nobody about this right here. This right here, this right here, this is worth $1,000,000. This is worth $1,000,000. Let me tell you. Y'all ready? I need y'all to listen to me. Lean in. Lean in. I'm only going to say this one time only. Shh. Guess what? It's cold outside. Did you heard? It's cold. It's cold. I'm sick of this cold weather. We ain't even had we ain't even got it in the winter yet. I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Lord have mercy. All right, listen. It's today is Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday. I'm looking at my screen. It is Wednesday, and we are going to venture back in. We got off the beaten path just for a second, but we're gonna get back on it because I got something that I want to tell you. Got something I want to talk to you about, and so we're gonna get back into the Adam project, the Adam project. The last piece that I broke bread with you all with was Eve let Adam go. I shouldn't have never named it that. I should have named it Woman Let That Man Go. Because Eve, what I've discovered in the last 2 weeks of being away, is that Eve would not have postured herself like the woman. I'm not saying that Eve wouldn't have made mistakes, but Eve would not have postured herself like the woman. And certainly the woman is not Eve. The Lord is giving me that revelation, and he had to rebuke me because in innocence, I was talking about an Adam to be, an Adam want to be, an Adam in training. We exploring this world of atoms with um, imperfections. Okay, so the ideology is there, um, um, and so yeah, so you can understand that. But when we look at it literally, there's some challenges. There's some theological tension that goes with that, and we'll unpack that a little bit more as we go on today. So today's message, as I have been talking about, I said Adam let Eve go. Scratch that. It's going to be man let that woman go. Let her go unless you're going to make her your wife. Let her go unless your intentions is to make her your wife. Now, the Lord showed me something today, uh, and this was within the last hour, and it just really blew my mind. I had to rearrange what I was going to teach today based upon what the Lord showed me. So let's get in, and I'll tell you what He said to me. So let's start off by saying this, that Eve was only to appear to Adam based upon a legitimate need. All right. Now we are discussing Eve's role and Adam's role. Today is Adam let, or not Adam, man let that woman go, slash Adam. Um, these are Adams, though, that have not matriculated to Adam yet. So it's man let that woman go, not Eve, because there's a differentiation between Eve and the woman, and we're going to talk about that today. So Eve was only to appear to Adam based upon a legitimate need, a legitimate need. Now I'm going somewhere. I need you to stick with me today because A lot of us right now, we are exploring. We are in the field. We are hunting. We are doing all the things that, the male species do, like the animal world. We're acting like animals. And, if we take a page out of that book, an animal will be with every female part of him. If it's a lion, it'll be with that one lion will be with every lioness. It don't really matter. And I'm going to show you today how you have postured yourself to do the same thing, but you were never supposed to do that because God didn't make you to be like an animal. And so we need to clear up some things. As I've said before, as we look at this Adam and Eve uh, situation, this Adam project, what we will discover is that it will speak to and it will address, if we listen to it, if we search it out, if we mind it, it will address every area of life, of existence today, be it government, politics, finances, relationships, frustrations, um, lack, desire, ambition, whatever it is, the Adam Project, if you stay in it long enough, you will be able to discover every area of life, the existence of life as we know it today, every inch of it, every ounce of it, every molecule, all the way down to the molecular system. You will be able to find it in Adam and in Eve, or in the man and the woman. The man and the woman. Okay. So let's get into that. When Adam is ready, God helps him to discover that everything he needed was already in him. Anything that we will ever need is already available in the creation of ourselves. It's in the creation of the creation. Anything that we will ever need, we already have it. You have to discover what you don't have. We just need to figure out how to get out of us what we need to get to us. We got to figure that out. How do I get out of me? There's a longing, there's a need, there's an ambition, there's a desire. I want something. I need it, and I need it now. But how do I get it out of me in order to bring it back to me? How do we get it out of us in order to bring it back to us? Now, I've been preaching about out of Second Kings chapter number 4, and I've been talking about this woman that didn't feel that she had a whole lot to offer. She didn't feel like she had a whole lot in her house, and so I named the title of that series, um, "Let's Just Work with That," or "Woman, Let's Just Work with That." And with that, one of the verses in there talks about how Elisha told her to go and pour out. So she was going to have to take the oil that she already had, and she was going to have to pour or empty it into vessels that she would go and get. Now that was going to be a miraculous event. But before she could take the oil that she had, before that, and one of the things that we have to do, and this is where I'm going with this right here, is that we have to pour out the stuff that's contaminated already on the inside of us. You can't mix the good oil with the bad oil. You can't do that. You can't take some cooking oil. Well, they do it. They will do it, especially if you get them. You will do it. But you should not take fresh oil and mix it with old oil, especially, I mean, old oil. Y'all know how it used to be in the projects. You shouldn't do that, but we do it. And so what happens is that the old oil contaminates the new stuff because the old oil came from something else. And so when we look at life, the reason why we can't get out of us what we need to get out of us to bring back to us what we need in order to bring about satisfaction, healing, deliverance, freedom, and all that is because we don't empty out first. We don't pour out of us what we need to pour out of us before we start putting back in the good stuff, the new stuff, in order to bring about that change or that result that you desire. It's even with church. A lot of religious people, you got religiosity, and you take that and you mix a whole bunch of the old stuff, a little bit from this church, a little bit from that church, a little bit from this religion and that religion, a little bit from this denomination and that denomination. You take all that type of stuff, a little bit from this relationship, in that relationship. Well, you know, I like him because he had this kind of hair, and this other one, if he had the biceps and all that. You take all that, and it's going to do is just have you all clouded. So you have to figure out how to pour out that which you don't need. But in order to do that, you have to discover what is needed. You have to discover what is right. You can't put new wine into old wine skins. There's going to be a separation point. Something is going to kill the other thing. The new wine is going to go in there and it's going to make the old wine skin split. Why? Because it can't handle that. It can't handle that. It's new. The values of it is different. The chemistry of it, the biology of it, all that is different. So it's the same way. Those principles they ring true even as it relates to this right here. So we're trying to get something to us, but in order for us to get it to us, we got to get some things out of us. All of us atoms, or all of us men, have to ask ourselves, what is it that we need out of Eve, if you Adam, or out of the woman, if you a man? I'm going somewhere today. You have to ask yourself that question. What is it? Because we all have a desire. I'm going to take you to the animal world in a minute, animal kingdom. I'm going to take you there in a minute. But we all have a desire. We all have a longing. We all have a yearning for something in us to be satisfied. It becomes an insatiable a desire at some point in your life, but you have to learn how to manage that. So again, all of us atoms or men, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we need out of Eve? This is the reason why this titled the way it is. Either Adam let Eve go or man let that woman go. Because for the most part, what we will discover is that what we are wanting out of the woman does not satisfy the purpose in our lives, the apex in creation. The apex is the highest point. What it does is when we look at the hierarchy of things, we start at the base. What it does is it satisfies the flesh. It satisfies the flesh. And then if we move up, it's going to do a little something to the soul. But all the way up here at the top, where the Bible says that in Genesis 1:26-27, it says that God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. When he said that particular man, he was talking about the spirit of man, and that became the apex. And so when you say, listen, I need a woman, I need a female, I need a mate, I need a helper. When you say that, you have to ask yourself in conjunction with that request, what is it that I want out of the woman? Because I'm going to tell you something. Men, y'all can, and women, y'all listen to me. You can fool yourself all day long. The reason why men have such an insatiable appetite and they continue to knock on door after door after door is because the flesh of a woman will never satisfy a man completely. A man is designed to fulfill his purpose from his creator, which is Yahweh, which is God. He is in the image and the likeness of God, and he will continue to chase that, not even understanding or knowing that that is what he is chasing. He will be chasing after that, but he will be chasing it and managing it in a very secular manner, a very fleshly manner. What gives him the understanding, the revelation, the illumination that that is what he's doing is because he keeps bouncing from door to door. In other words, what he's saying is, I'm not satisfied. I am not fulfilled yet. I'm not fulfilled yet. And so without someone in his life, without another real Adam, without a revelation, without another word beside him, he will continue to make mistakes. He will continue to make mistakes. And so that becomes an issue. And what we have right now is so many men that are walking upright on two legs, and they're making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake in search of purpose. But if there has not been a word of clarity, if there has not been an Adam, if there has not been a preacher, if there's not been a communication to that man to guide him, if light has not come into his purview, into his heart, into his eyes, into his mind, into his spirit, he will continue to behave the way that he is behaving, and it will affect every area of humanity. It will affect every area of life. And so women will never be satisfied. They will never, that the thing that they were made for and that they yearn to do. Next week we're going to talk about the fruit. And the reason why I say that is because what a woman clings on to is that if I give the man the fruit, if I feed him, I can keep him. That's for next week. If I feed him, I can keep him. You can't keep a man by what you put in his mouth. But what you put in his mouth is a form of technology. We'll talk about that on next week, because the woman don't understand the power of what she's feeding. And she's got to come into a full revelation and understanding to know what it is that's leaving her hand that's going into the man's mouth. She's got to know that. Anyway, that's a whole different story. Now, so after we ask ourselves the question of uh, Adam asked ourselves, what is that we really need out of Eve? Or in other words, how are we going to use her to help fulfill our desire or need? Then after that, you have to say, and do we qualify for that help? Do you qualify? Now, this is the reason why I'm saying, men, let that woman go. Or, Adam, let Eve go. Okay, that's the higher level. And Adam shouldn't, if it's a real Adam, and Eve shouldn't desire to be free from a real Adam. An Eve shouldn't. But if the Adam is not qualified, or the man is not qualified for that particular help, then you need to release that woman. The reason why you need to release that woman, because it's killing her, and it's killing you. Now I'm going to talk to you on is Gary get a little deep. I'm going to talk to you on a higher level, and I'm going to tell you, this is what the Lord just shared with me about an hour or so ago, and I had to really change my message. Now, I've never heard this before, and I don't know if you have. You may have, you may not have, but indulge me if you will. So in the book of in Genesis 2:23, it says here that when God took the man and he put him to sleep, and he took the bone, the rib out of the man, and he closed the man back up. And once he closed the man back up, Adam was woken. When Adam woke up, he looked at the woman, and what Adam said was, he says that, and Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones." I want you to really hear me here. This is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Now, understand this. Genesis 2 and 23. It says, and Adam said. Now, I need you, we got to slow it down. I need you to hear me, because this is this revelation that God just gave me. And Adam said. Now, notice who's talking, but notice what's happening. Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." Well, now watch this. It says, she shall be called woman, not Eve. Not at this point. And I'm saying that for a reason, because this is the title of my message. Woman, oh, excuse me, man, let that woman go. I'm gonna say it again. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. She should be bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." Now, notice what is going on here is that Adam now is been given the privilege, the authority to set things in order. Adam has. But watch what he says here. It says, and Adam said, "This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." So in other words, what he was saying was, everything, every part of me, as a woman with a womb, she is me, but she has a womb. She came out of me. So therefore, I can personally account for every woman. Y'all ain't hearing what I'm saying. He is saying that I can. If you go back and you look at all creation, when we say all creation, we say that from the book of Genesis, when we talk about Genesis, from Genesis 1, okay, we relegate humanity out of Adam and Eve. You can trace all humanity that's been in existence in what we know of, the biblical dispensation. They all came out of Adam and Eve. And so when we find here in Genesis 2 and 23, Adam is saying here, she is bone of my bone and she is flesh of my flesh. So she came out of me. So now I have the wherewithal to put this in perspective, Ben. And this is what I'm trying to get you to see. This is the difference between an Adam and a man. Because Adam has the jurisdiction and the authority. Now there is some humanity tension. There is an ontological issue that is juxtaposition. I know there it is. I don't like using all that, but it's juxtaposition to ontological, meaning what comes from God versus humanity. And so there's tension right here. So when we look at this right here, what this scripture is saying is that Adam has the wherewithal, he has the authority to say within himself, I can treat what comes out of me and bring it all back as women, or I can treat what comes out of me and bring it all back as a wife. Y'all ain't hearing what I'm saying. I hate that I got to go through, I don't hate it, but I got to go through this in order for us to understand more clearly about what the problem really is, the root problem. And so we see here the issue with men today is that when men are looking at the woman instead of looking for a wife. So You look at, she's bone of your bone and flesh of your flesh, because she didn't look like the animals. We're gonna get to that, Genesis 2:19 here in a few seconds. She didn't, everything else that was out there didn't look like you. And when you look at the animal kingdom, the lion, the male lion, was lying with all female lions. When you look out there, that's where it is. A male dog will lay with any female dog, and it'll go one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. It'll keep doing that. Well, man wasn't supposed to do that. And God here, through scripture, he shows us the maturity of Adam. He shows us that. So now Adam recognizes that all women, look at all this eye candy. Eye candy everywhere. Oh my Lord, look at this right here. I get this, pick this in my pocket, pick this up, put this on hold. All these women, okay? So Adam can say they all came out of me. Now I know y'all gonna argue with me and say, y'all, but it was just one woman that came out of him. But it wasn't. It was all women. All women, this is 2023. All them women Adam looked at. Hear me. All women, 2023, 2024, 2025, until Jesus comes back. All those Adam already looked at. He already made a decision whether or not he would have her, or if he would take the high road, the apex, according to creation, the image and likeness of God, and find a wife. Now watch this. Genesis 3:20. 3:20. 3:20. Now watch this. Genesis 3:20. I got so much stuff open right here. I want to show you something. Is it on this right here? No. I want to show you something. Genesis 3:20. Now watch this. It says here, and Adam called his wife's, plural, not plural, wife's, his wife. He called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Now that tells me something right there where I got to just stop and pause, because women, if you gonna take on the persona and the nature of an Eve, Eve is the only one that can be called, a mother. All women can't be called a mother of all living. Women can't take on that title. Women can't do that. But Eves can do that. But notice what's going on here in the text. And when we look at Genesis 2:23, Adam, with the authority, he says, she's bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And because of that, she should be called woman, because she came out of me. She was taken out of man. But when he calls her, Adam called her, he said, that she shall be called woman right here, not Eve. This is what I'm trying to get you to see, and where we are flawed at, because what we are going after, men, we are going after the woman. Notice what Adam does in the text. He calls the woman that came out of him, but he says, I won't have nothing to do with her intimately, sexually. I won't mess her up. I won't touch her inappropriately. The only one that I will touch appropriately or in a sexual way, in an intimate way, is the one that I am going to now call Eve. Oh, 3:20. And Adam called his wife's name, after he considered all the other women, he called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother. He gave her a name because the name Eve, he gave her an appropriate name for her because she was the mother. Now I'm going somewhere. I want you to stick with me. The reason why he said that to her was because she was the mother. Now watch this. Now watch this. Watch this. I got my notes here that Adam has to wrestle with the choice of making all women serve him, or calling out one and making her his wife. I didn't want to skip that. Or the mother of all living. You have to be a wife to be the mother of all living. Now I said that, but I'd already said it, but I wanted to say it again just in case I missed something. But here we go. Now I want to get into the nuts and bolts. Although Eve, because I told you about the animals, okay, I told you about the animals, but watch what Adam is doing here. Although Eve was real and she was inside of Adam, she did not manifest or become really real until Adam gave her a name. This is where she became the mother of all living. It's significant. It's different than a woman, because the woman represents a very broad spectrum, a very broad footprint, very broad layout. But when you start to when you start to say Eve, you locate something different. Now watch this. He gave her a name just like he had given all other names in creation. Now, Genesis 2:19. Watch this. Genesis 2:19. You got to stay with me. This is we studying. Now watch this. Genesis 2:19. This is what it says here. And out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see. He formed all that. I'm gonna read it again. Out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. Now, to see here, when we put it in context, there was a reason why God wanted to. He said, I want to take note of this because this is significant. It's significant what you call something. It's significant what name you have. It's significant what you give a name. It carries power and authority and dominion when you give it a name. Now watch this. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. It wasn't just the name. It wasn't just that I call lion, lion. No, inside the name represented the character. It represented the behavior. It represented the action and the conduct. It had everything. The whole nature was built into the name. I can control you, or you can control me, whatever it is. All I give authority based upon a name. Now watch. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam, this is where Eve comes in at. For Adam, there was not found an helpmeet for him. Nobody was suitable for Adam. Now, That does not mean that Adam did not have the privilege to explore. That's exactly what that means. That means that he brought everything to Adam, and he wanted to see. I'm saying I'm teaching, and I ain't even teaching. See, one of the lessons that we got to learn out of this right here is that you don't accept everything that you see. Everything that you see ain't for you to embrace, to bring home, to do this and to do that with. Even Adam knew that, but Adam was the most intelligent being. So Adam looks at that. He says, that don't look like me. It don't look like purpose. It don't look like the best. It don't look like the apex. Something is wrong. For Adam, there was not one found. There was nothing found suitable for Adam. There was no helper. There was no helpmeet for Adam. And he discovered that. But the issue, or one of the issues that we have, is that we can't see. And so what we do is that we discover and we bring home everything, or we bring it to us, whether it's a woman, whether it's an influence, whether it's a peace pipe, whether it's some alcohol, some chemical, whatever it is, we have not figured out what's suitable and not. So we are linking up, and you have become in marriage with all women, and you have forsook the whole the ideal of marriage. The thing of, I have to now call what's going to come to me my wife, because when I call her Eve, it makes her the mother of all living. That also shores up a certain conduct or a certain purpose. It helps me to achieve what God has made and called me to be or to do. The reason why a lot of men that are bouncing around with one woman to another woman to another woman, and this and that, whether it's a substance, whatever it is, the insatiable appetite that most men have. The reason why that is going on is because you have failed in this other area to recognize. You have failed to recognize that what I need to call to me to fulfill me and my purpose is I need to call my wife. And if you don't call your wife to you, then men, you are not ready for a woman. The only reason why Adam went to sleep was because there was a need. Adam needed somebody to help him. And if you still laying in the bed, if you still eating bonbons, if you still won't get a job, if you still can't count, if you still won't go back to school, if you still won't do all the things that you need to do in order to be a man, in order to just to be productive in the land, in your neighborhood, in your house, then you are not ready for a woman, let alone an Eve, which is / wife. Why? Because you have not, and I talked about this in my other messages, you have not tended the garden. Remember, Adam was already doing everything that he needed to do. A woman should never have to come to a man to, and number one, a man don't have a house. A man is not set up. A man don't have the wherewithal to care. Notice the scripture, it's all laid out. Before Eve came to Adam, Adam already had the mansion. He already had everything going on. He had the Benz. He had the Phantom. He had the 6-bedroom and eight bathroom house. He had all that. He had the money in the bank. He had all that. So now it's like, listen, the vision is so big, I can't do this by myself. So I'm not calling you just for me and you to lay down every night. It's the quickest way to separation. A man can get tired of what's between your legs all day. I'm telling you, women, they gonna get tired of that. Now, don't mean it ain't good to them, but what it is, they go to animal instinct. And the animal instinct means that she's bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She should be called woman. And that means that if I am not thinking like Adam, and if I'm just thinking like the man, and when I say man, I'm talking about the lower level man, not the man in the image and the likeness of God, but the flesh man. That man right there, he gonna sleep with this one, that one, that one, that one, that one, because now you take on the same nature as animals. I got to keep going. Now, the name gives it when Adam names, and I named it right here where he called all the animals, right? And he called Eve. The name gives it direction and guidance. Now hear me. The name gives it direction and guidance. It gives it functionality and it gives it purpose. See, when God told Adam to subdue, take dominion, and all that, well, the lion was under his control. The elephant was under his control. The giraffe was under his control. The gorilla was under his control, right? So, but the control was when God brings it to you, you name it to give it its function. Now, how are you going to operate in the earth? Now, it wasn't until after the fall that things got that chaos hit. But understand, the gorilla wasn't acting like a gorilla until after the fall. That's another message. So it gives it functionality and purpose. The naming makes you deal with what is in front of you, or it makes you face the consequences. See, understand this. The naming makes you deal. When you name something, you deal with what it is in front of you. When you name it, I'm going somewhere. Trust me. Or you face the consequences. If you don't give it a name, it becomes a circus. Anything that you don't name, then that means that it's in front of you, but it can do whatever. That's the reason why we got so much chaos right now, because we have not named it. When you name it, you take authority of it. When you name it, you give it a function, you give it a purpose. But if something comes in front of you, God brought all creation, living, breathing creation to Adam to see what he would name. And if Adam had not given one of them a name, it would have been before Adam and said, okay, well, I do what I want to do. That's another problem that we got right now, men and women, because you have not been named appropriately, because we are not set up now to use names in the fashion in which God ordained it to be. And so now we got clowns running around, male and female clowns, because you don't give it a name. When you give it a name, you subdue, you take authority, you have dominion, not control, but dominion for the purpose of God. But when you don't, you're going to have to deal with it. So there's consequences to things that you don't name. That means that I can just go ape crazy. That means that I can just be in the circus and I can act like a clown and I can embarrass you and I can do whatever I want to do. Why? Because you have not adequately took the time to attend to me and to pour into me what's needed to help me mine out my purpose, so my purpose can help you get to your purpose, and ultimately the purpose of God can be fulfilled. I'm going somewhere. It makes you face the consequences. Naming sharpens the subject and it brings it into focus. Something about a name for a man, for a woman, once you name it, it makes it grabbable now. So you got to understand something. In chapter number 1, when God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness, he had made man, but man had not manifested. God, I wish I could preach this. Man has still not manifested yet. And so he was in the creation, but it's something about it being real. It had not been real yet. So in other words, what God said, that I got to take the apex, which is me, it's all the way me, and then I breathe in him, make him a living soul, but then I need to manifest, I need to see him walking and talking. So now he made man, he formed man out of the dust of the ground. And so now it becomes real. Before it was real, but it was not tangible. It was not grabbable. See? And something about naming it, although he named it in the beginning, he said, let us make man, but man was still in the invisible. He was in the immaterial. So now, so God says, let me break it down to make it in the material. It's still the man, but it's a threefold man. And at that point, now you can start giving it direction. So God calls man man. And when he does that, there's an authority. It is who God is inside of him that he gives to the man. And the man is supposed to act accordingly. What name did you give the woman? What name did you give her? Because when I look around now, it's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. So I need to know, what name did you give her? It could not have been Eve. Not with the behavior. Not with the functionality. Not with what I see. It could not have been Eve, because if you would have gave her the name Eve, that means that she would have had motherly characteristics. That means that she don't lay down with Johnny, Jim, and Joe, and Peter, and James. That means that she ain't got, 4 different baby daddies. So she couldn't have been named Eve or a derivative of. So what name did you give the broad woman, man? What name did you give her that calls her to behave and to act the way that she's acting? What name did you give her? Are you acting like a woman, or are you acting like Eve? It represents the meaning of the name Eve. It could only be because you did not name her properly. Eve is only supposed to come forward. I missed something. Eve is only supposed to come forward when there is a need from Adam. When Adam is identified his purpose and there is the necessity to have companion to help him fulfill the purpose in his life, then Eve comes forward. I want to go back to something before I lose it. When we're sitting here and we're talking about names, the other thing about it, and I talked about bringing in the focus, what a name will do. Now, when you don't name or give it a name, it is also dangerous, and yet it has become, to many of us, our reality. And that it is not something created to create something that you just don't want to deal with. So it is either, when you name it, that is to make something, to give it its structure, to give it its purpose, or to create something that you just don't want to deal with. So when you name it or you don't name it, when you do name it, you're saying that I am going to take responsibility. Or when you don't name it, you say that I just don't want to deal with it. Now watch. So when you don't want to deal with it, what is it that you're saying that you don't want to deal with? I don't want to deal with the woman. I don't want to deal with the children. I don't want to deal with the responsibilities of life, etc. So this all goes into the name when you say, okay, I'm gonna name her. I don't know what y'all naming them. I don't know what we naming them. I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, we see the result of whatever it is. Because I can tell you some of the stuff that we naming them. We naming them hoe, and we naming them slut, and all this stuff, you giving them a name, and in that name there's a lot of power. Okay, I digressed. Because naming means you must deal with whatever you call it. Naming means you must deal with whatever you call it. Now watch this. God associates purpose with speech. God associates purpose with speech. God brings the animals to Adam to see what he would name them. So another concept here is the thing slash image slash creation isn't quite real until you name it. We said that. For the man, it becomes a grippable entity once there is a name put to it. In other words, you can control it. You can control it for a man. Now listen, a woman wasn't never supposed to be controlled. When you say you're gonna control it with a name, and if the name is not an Eve name, then what names are you giving her? As I said a few minutes ago, controlling names are names like bitch, hoe, slut, strawberry, whatever all those names are. That's demeaning. That's what they do. And when a man gives a woman those type of names, why I'm saying, man, let that woman go, it means that you control her, but you control her in a negative way. The other concept here is that we bring this world to life and we don't name it anything at all. This is dangerous, and yet it has become many of our realities, and that is to make something, create something that you just don't want to deal with. That was what I came back to. Lord, I'm getting crazy here. Because naming it means you must deal with it. All right. We must ask ourselves, when we do call something or give it a name, are we maximizing its purpose, or are we simplifying it by reducing it down to something we can manage and manipulate? So if you call your son killer or beast, that's what spirit comes to him. You call your woman hoe or slut, then that's what spirit comes to her. Or B, that's what spirit comes to her. So by doing that, are we reducing it down to something we can manage and manipulate? In other words, not giving it its full strength. Have we gotten to the point to where the reason why we are at this particular place is because we have something that we can't control within ourselves that is calling us, manipulating us, telling us that we gotta have it. And once we get it, it's got so out of control that you don't want what you get. You don't want the total of it. All you want is the pleasure of it. And the pleasure of it is expressed in sex, drugs, alcohol, money, food, shelter, transportation. And if you are not getting these items or these things to you, what I'm saying today in this particular little message is, man, let the woman go. Because until you can mature to go towards purpose and to look at a woman in terms of, I need to find a wife. Adam looked at all the women because they all came from him. Every man today, you have an opportunity of all that eye candy out there. Pick and choose. But Adam gives us an example. He says, all of it came out of me. So if it came out of me, technically, I guess I got rights to it. Came out of me. But I'm not going to touch it, even though it came out of me. What I will call back to me is the woman that I call Eve. And that's going to be one woman for one man. And in her, by me giving her that name, it empowers her. It also protects her. It secures her. Now I know, we talk about something different. Eve gave Adam the fruit. We're going to talk about that next week. That ain't what I'm talking about. What I'm saying though, is that from a husband and wife, a relationship perspective, Eve helped Adam to go towards purpose. Eve wasn't out looking and letting everything come to her, although the enemy did, but it wasn't like what we see today. It was though, but it wasn't. Okay, because after the sin, Eve didn't really know what she was doing. Okay, we're gonna talk about that next week. But before the fall, it was all set up. And the imagery, the message, the revelation, the blueprint was in place. But we've aborted it, to say the least. All right, y'all. I don't know what else to say in this piece with the man. You got to be a big man. You got to be a mature man to walk away from a woman. When you got to be able to say to yourself, I ain't ready. I'm telling you now. If you're doing anything outside of what I've been talking about in all these messages in the Adam Project, you ain't ready yet. Now I know that's a long shot to say that man that's shacking with that girl gonna walk away from that girl tonight, or that girl is going to have enough strength to send that man away. See, everything all messed up now. It's muddled, and we've got to get it all back together. It's all in disarray. It's all messed up because the world, we have taken notes, and the paradigm has come from the dark side. And we're living under that particular paradigm. And we shouldn't be. All right, men and women, remember this. The worst is over. The best is yet to come. Your quality of life is getting better and better and better. And because of that, you're going to live and not die and declare the works and the will of the Lord. Until next time, this is Dr. D.L. Eatman. Be blessed. And I will see you on Sunday.